4. Welcome to the library for this first entry in Series 4 of Intro to the Realms. I am the recorder, and in this entry we'll be taking a brief look at a little known yet vital part of the realms and their ability to continue to expand and grow amongst the stars as they have. A place which billions of gold worth of the vital crystal needed to create so much of the realm's advanced magical and technological wonders is sourced from every year. An oddity whose creator has never been discovered. In this entry, we look at the pen. I know my perceptive patrons and regular visitors are well aware, but for any new guests of the library, this will only be an overview and introduction to this interesting locale. Further exploration is as always possible in the future, as interest and time do allow. So, if you have any questions or just want to express your thoughts, don't hesitate to make your voice heard. The pen, a location that few know of, but almost every person in the realms has at one point or another benefited from, or in fact used items created with the output of this all but unknown island. With its origins unknown, and ownership a contested thing over the years, the pen has been a place where the occasional flurry of activity would occur as one force or another attempted to gain control, with nothing else for centuries or millennia. The output of this island, and why it is such a vital part of the realms and their growth, is crystal. Vast quantities of all grade of crystal, as well as all known variants as well. General estimate put the pen's stake in the realm-wide crystal market at nearly 40%, meaning 2 out of every 5 crystal on the open market was sourced from the pen. With the ever-amounting of crystal in use by the realms, not only in space vessels, stations, and the components thereof, but also in colonization efforts, as well as the daily, normal use and demand for crystal to maintain and repair these creations. The pen is one of the few steady and reliable sources for the quantities of crystal needed for projects of a sovereignty level, that being starships, orbital facilities, and the like. This has made ownership and control of the pen a position of significant privilege and leverage over the ages. No one is certain of the exact origins of the pen, strangely enough. It is clearly artificial, from the perfect arrangements of the caves and mountains that form the outer edge of the island, to how, with its location so precisely in the northern pole waters of Jam'mar, with the combination and placement of calderas and high ridges that ensure the cyclic weather patterns that ensure steady production of crystal, the entire island was undoubtedly a creation of great artifice and greater power. The issue is that even among the Analar and the dragons, the 2 elder races, and honestly the only such beings capable of its creation, no one knows who made it, only that it is known to have existed as far back as the time before time. Evidence of techniques of both of the elder races is present, from the hyper-specialized flora that will collect and deposit crystal into underground systems of tubes that have them delivered to be sorted and then stored, to that very sorting network and the vast amount of controls used to maintain the pen's function. However it was created, it is proven thus far to be incapable of being replicated, despite the many attempts to do so over the ages. General speculation of it being a joint venture between the now forgotten firstborns of the elder races during those golden years long before the Wars of Feathering Scale are among the leading theories as to the origins of the pen, and most likely correct. No matter its origins, the pen did not factor greatly into the affairs of either elder or mortal for many ages after the beginning of time as a constant. As such, it is almost unremarked in records until the age of the reign of Vanson, where it is mentioned offhandedly as a island in the north, deep in the frozen fog sea, which never saw the gaze of the daemon or his minions fall upon it. This rather lackluster first mention, notable only because of how otherwise total the reign was, as nearly all the world lived in a constant fear of the arrival of some element of the daemon's near infinite hordes. However, multiple tellings and records surviving from the era confirm that there were indeed tales of strange islands out in the vast seas of Jam'mar, where safety and peace could be found. Places like Mount Hope, the Spire Keep of Steam, and the Pen still exist today as a testament to the validity of some of these claims, even if they are most certainly the exception in extreme. It would not be until a few centuries after the end of the reign that the pen would begin to become the resource and location of note that it continues to be to this day. A nascent group of scholars and researchers, along with their aides and allies, had begun to make efforts to recover and understand the various tools and weapons of the elder races, to better the lives of the younger races, as well as prevent such power from ever becoming a threat to the world again. Roughly 5 to 10 years before the rise of the Valors, this group, the Revivers, discovered and claimed the pen. However, they were unable to gain access to either the control centers or the storage banks, and thus had to merely guard what they knew to be one of the greatest discoveries of the age. Within a decade, however, they had not only gained access, but with the help of such minds as a young Genevieve Notokir, they had brought the facilities back online and were also able to access the vast stores of Chris that had been automatically collected and stored over the years. This is a large part of how the Revivers were able to undergo the industrial and military conversion they did between this time and when the pen next changed owners in a meaningful way, several thousand years later. During the Age of Respite and Reunion, as part of a series of shadow conflicts between the rising nation of Zerobrenth, the resurrected Necrotai Empire, and the Revivers, the pen was taken from the Revivers by a combined force from the Empire and the leaders of the Zerobrenthian Council. The eventual hostilities, secession, and further actions by the parties saw that while ownership of the pen may have shifted, its output of Chris never stopped, and this was most certainly to the benefit of all the parties involved. For if the Chris that were being obtained and brought to the market from the pen were to stop suddenly, those markets, and impossibly all the momentum building in those early years before the Age of Stars, could have crashed. Fortunately for all, everybody involved understood this, and the seizing of the pen was a show of force behind the curtain more than any attempt to manipulate the bounty of the pen. It is currently assumed that control still rests with that Union of States, as the Revivers as an organization are all but extinct, and no other power has appeared to challenge the claim. Put simply, the pen, with its interior being a range of different environs, is a place where creatures and beasts, monsters and terrors, are somehow summoned and let loose to fight each other, to hunt, or perhaps even to hide. The manner of their arrival is of interest, as it is not a normal magical summoning, which would return the creature back to its place of origin after a time. Any creature that appears will be there until they are slain, with no banishing or dismissal right having any effect upon them. This makes it rather unclear where exactly these creatures are originating from, and efforts to answer this question have only led to further questions, as the array of magics and meta-sciences at play within the pen appears as madness to most who have attempted to figure out this mystery. However they do get there are a few things that are certain. 1. No creatures of a proper intelligence or cognizance show up. 2. No matter when they are summoned, they have less than 13 hours to live. While the summonings happen on a near constant basis across the pen, the weather is anything but constant. It is, however, on a regular cycle, with 9 hours of relatively comfortable, if not rather warm temperatures, followed by 4 hours of an extreme and sudden frigid cold, accompanied by storms of an extremely lethal nature. The peak of this storm will see jagged and razor-edged hail the size of a human falling with regularity, with temperatures dropping well below freezing in the first 30 minutes of this 4-hour cold cycle. Combined with the hail, none of the summoned creatures will live long enough to see the temperatures begin to rise as the cycle completes and rapidly warms up, restarting the 9 hours of warmth and general activity. Of all the creatures that have been recorded to be within the pen, only 2 species seem to have found a way to avoid this fate, and thus have become part of the pen's function and ecosystem. Neither appears to have arrived via the normal method of being summoning either. The first seems to have been part of the pen's ecosystem since both the earliest accounts, as well as logically fitting within the entirety of its existence, with the second species appearing to be an addition made by its latest owners. The first is a variant of the forest reaper, or hum snatcher, that makes its home in the trunks of hollowed out orwood trees, which is one of the few places that is safe from the hail and can provide some barrier to the extreme cold. The other is the much newer addition, Cyclopsian Falnines, the strange creatures thought to have been created somewhere within Zerobrent. Naturally able to adapt to nearly any environment, and predisposed to seek a natural equilibrium with the environment they find themselves in, they use their biological adaptations, along with their ability to spin and project strings of super strong webbing, to create shelters for themselves to hide in during the cold cycles. Often, these will be near or even attached to the very same orwoods the forest reapers reside in. The two are not hostile to each other, and, with the ending of the storm and the rising of the temperature, both set out to fill their niche within the pen's greater functions. The hum snatchers will dart out to find any crysts that were created by the death of the various creatures on the pen, tearing into the corpses to retrieve it, and then taking it back to their hollows before repeating the ritual. The Falnines, on the other hand, will feast on the remains, and act as a rapid disposal for the freshly rended but still generally thawing flesh. In most cases, in the few hours after the storm ends, and before the amount of new creatures beginning to repopulate the pen becomes a danger to either of them, the Reapers and the Falnines will have cleared most of the cryst and a great portion of any remains, generally leaving enough meat to be used to be drawn to and fought over by newly arrived beasts looking for a fresh or easy kill. Any crysts that were missed that fall to the ground or are placed within their hollows by the reapers are drawn into the ground by the very roots and the plants themselves. These are dropped into tubes and collected and sorted. This is the only known instance of forest reapers not reacting violently to the loss of crysts from their hollows. And as crysts is used as part of their reproduction, it is theorized that this is bypassed by only the crysts that have otherwise been buried in the sides of the hollow to be taken. Similar to when not being openly observed, the cryst will be removed from the ground by roots. This would seem to make sense, as the reapers will just continue to build layers upon layers as they recover and find more crysts, using mud to hold them in place. This constant 13-hour cycle sees thousands of Type 1 crysts, the smallest and most common, collected in an hour. There is a disproportionate skew towards the higher quality manifestation of crysts that are collected and sold by the pen. This is due that in general, only larger and more fearsome creatures tend to be called forth to battle and kill each other. Things such as animalistic saurian carnivores the size of a house, wild and feral proto-worms capable of only rage and violence for another. These beasts are of greater nature, and thus even in the wider realms, they would be expected to leave behind these higher forms. Thus, the vast and constant bounty of the pen, with its skew of higher quality crysts, fills in nicely to a market that is generally well supplied in the lower forms of crysts by more local sourcing methods. Type 4s, Type 5s, and awning crysts that find their way to the open realms market are almost always from the pen, as well as others do sell such treasures when they are found, naturally. They are far more commonly used as a resource, traded for favors, or just directly sold to an interested party rather than being placed on the open market. To be fair, many powers and sovereignties maintain a vast collection of these higher grades of crysts to serve both as a financial reserve as well as a strategic reserve of the material. And this serves as much to maintain a constant market for cryst as the rapid expansion of cryst tech to require these rarest of cryst. Even if most of the realms is blissfully unaware of its existence, the pen will continue to be a place of near constant, contained, and savage violence, broken up only by the chilling storms that are just as savage, and perhaps the few hours where the bounty is generally collected and freed from the corpses. That bounty will go on to fuel the growth of the realms, be it as a new component made from cryst, or perhaps in the design and the construction of a new colony. To things as simple as a new cooking plate or as complex as a power plant, the pen supplies the needed material for all these and more. The pen, a place of generally little note, if it were not for the vast part it plays within the realms and her economic and industrial growth, from its hidden place in the northern mists of the seas of Jam'mar. Many heroes of legend, and even gods, have made their own visits to the pen, for one reason or another. But no matter the reason or goal, those that come to do anything beyond gaining vast amount of cryst are often left disappointed, as no matter how hard the people have tried over the years, the pen has held fast to the secrets of its creation and of its function. This is where I'm going to draw this entry to a close. I hope you now have a better understanding of what the pen is and why it's so important, not only to the powers that control it, but to the wider realms. If you have any questions, feel free to make your voice and your thoughts known. You can do so not only in the comments below, you can also tweet at Master Griffin on Twitter. That's Master_Griffin on Twitter. Of course, the best place to stay up to date with the goings-on of the realms for free is by becoming a member at Gryphon'sLibrary.locals.com. If you further choose to support the realms while you are there by becoming a subscriber, you will get unrestricted access to exclusive locals content, as well as the ability to post and chat with other like-minded supporters and friends of the realms, myself very much included. Gryphon'sLibrary.locals.com. Subscribers and members will get access to live stream Q&As, first look at various projects as they develop, and the ability to guide topic and subject choices as such opportunities arise, all for less than $0.25 a day. Even if you do not choose to become a subscriber, being a free member will let you stay up to date with all things Realms, as well as still seeing content that will be published nowhere else, or before it is released. Please only consider subscribing if you are secure in your own situation. Thank you for your time, your interest, and of course, your support of and in the realms of Jam'mar and Gryphon's Library. Perceptive patrons, regular visitors, and new guests of the library, I have been, as always, the Recorder. And until you next make your way back to the library for another entry of Intro to the Realms, by the 9 and 4, be well, take care of yourselves and each other. If you'd like to contribute to the further exploration and explanation of the realms, please consider leaving a comment, a like, and sharing the video around. I read all the comments and make efforts to reply to each. Thank you for helping to grow the channel, and know I look forward to each and every one of your comments. Other methods of support can be found in the channel's description. Thank you for watching,